So this was announced a Face of Revolution qualifying match. Isaiah Cassidy continuing or getting another shot. You know, I'm a big Private Party fan, and I like that they brought back the Velvet Ropes and going through that at the entrance. So I think these kids have a huge upside, and it's going to be part of the dismantle of the HFO eventually. But these guys are a lot of fun to watch. And of course, you know, the huge story is the big debut of Keith Lee joining AEW. And man, was that a pop for sure. That was Limitless Keith Lee, had an outstanding match. I mean, he showed his strength, he showed his power, he showed his charisma in the ring. The fans were chanting for him the whole time. Man, and first off, I loved when he threw him almost 20 feet across the ring. And then I love the finish where Isaiah Cassidy screams really high, like a little girl.
Yeah,
Anytime Cassidy screams, I think it's hilarious. I mean, you could hear it echoing through the whole arena. Fantastic stuff with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Is this a good debut match for you with Keith Lee?
Well, it was interesting. You know, I mean, like, obviously, there are people who are going to say, oh, man, he should have been, you know, Keith Lee needs to be in the main event. Well, this is setting the stage, right? I mean, this is a qualifier for him to break into the Face of the Revolution.
He's on the pay-per-view now. He's going to be in the pay-per-view. It's first person booked on the pay-per-view.
It's locked in. Yeah, it's set in stone. And he's going to automatically be a favorite in that matchup based off of his sheer size and athleticism. I mean, this dude is an absolute physical freak. So, and the way, what I will say is, when you got a big guy like this is something that I've talked about with you in many occasions and through the course of Dynamite Download is AEW with their big men. I think they're getting better and better at recognizing how to protect their big men and present their big men in a way that makes them feel strong and special. This was a good example of that.
You're right.
You and I have had the interviews where we talked to 10, we've talked to Brian Cage. We've had those chances to ask, you know, like, do you like going big man versus big man? Do you like going David versus Goliath? I like these David and Goliath matchups because it makes a guy like Keith Lee pop. It makes him look like an absolute freight train. I mean, just his ability to, even post-match with Isaiah Cassidy and Marquine jumping over the top rope, trying to attack Keith Lee and knock him down, and Keith Lee literally catching the one with Marquine. Catching Marquine,
unbelievable,
mid Hurricane Rana off over the top rope, and just like without being phased, it just shows what a rock of a man this dude is. Just a monstrous human being. God doesn't make a lot of people that size. I'm gonna say, I am intrigued to see him be pushed more going forward. Obviously, this was a great debut, dominant performance by Keith Lee. I want to see him get pushed more in AEW as we move forward because I want to be able to see Keith Lee, not just his power, but one of the things that separates Keith Lee from a lot of these other big men is his athleticism and his ability to do, you know, these top rope maneuvers. And the guy is surprisingly spry for 350, you know, being a 350 pounds. And the dude can move.
Yeah.
So I want to see him go in get like having a matchup that pushes him in a little bit. But this was a perfect way to debut the guy. Came in, dominated, was an absolute freight train, launched Isaiah Cassidy out of orbit. And like you said, I think his finisher showed well, was an impressive, dominant finisher, and it sets the stage for him to really make a difference at the pay-per-view. The buzz is real with Keith Lee. AEW is definitely, you could tell AEW knows what they got with this dude. And I have a feeling he's going to be a mainstay in the big picture for quite some time for this company.
Who do you want to see him go against next in a singles match? To put you on the spot.
Oh, goodness. Like I said, I love the David and Goliath matchups.
Right.
You know, long term, obviously, I go back to I would love – I know you can't do it right now, but I would love to see him go against a guy like Adam Cole. They have history together. I would love to see him – again, I want to see him in a match. I think him versus Sammy Guevara would be a banger of a match.
Yeah.
If he ends up winning that match at the pay-per-view, just the difference in the sheer size, seeing – you and I have talked about countless times how Sammy how creative Sammy's offense is, how fearless Sammy is. I think going against a guy like Keith Lee, Sammy's never seen anybody like him before. I think that would be a
Right.
really interesting battle between two guys who are incredibly talented. That jumps out. And then you know me, I would on his pathway to facing Sammy, I would absolutely love to see Keith Lee and Darby Allin at some point. Can you
Wow.
imagine? Can you imagine the carnage that could come in that match? Just how far Keith Lee could throw him up into the rafters. I think. I would
The
love to see that
nosebleeds
one.
for sure.
Yeah, that would be so much fun. Just from the crash test dummy, as you like to call him, Darby Allin, going against a guy like Keith Lee, who just is literally like a Mack truck. I would
Right.
love to see that absolute dichotomy of styles push each other. It would be a lot of fun.
See, I would go the other way. I would want to see before we move to the next segment. I think like him and Big Butch would be a Hoss versus
That'd be
Hoss. Like
fun.
Big
Yeah.
Butch return. Like you would have. I want to see Keith Lee's capability of
Hobbs.
how big he go in terms of his power. Like yes,
Yeah.
like David Goliath. It is fun to have that. Like the Wardlow and the Hobbs and all that. So if you have Butcher go against Keith Lee and then both doing being able to try to do belly to belly suplex. I want to see someone manhandle Keith Lee for part of
I
the
got
match
you.
too.
Yeah.
And
I
then
got you.
to show off their strength, and then Keith Lee just overpower him on that. But
I like that. And you could see like a guy like Powerhouse Hobbs taking exceptions.
course.
Like I'm the big man in AEW.
Mhm.
I'm the
That would be
badass
great.
in AEW. That could be a really cool back and forth there.
Coming out with that fur coat on.
Yeah, I like that. I like your mindset too, man. I think that like big man versus big man, kind of marking your territory a little bit. Who's
Yeah.
the big dog in the yard, so to speak. I like that idea. That could definitely have some meat to it.